Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to day 3 of London Tech Week LTW Connects, brought to you by Informa Tech founders, Tech London advocates and London and partners. Today, you've joined us to really listen to the fabulous content and speakers we have for our Resilience in Tech stream. You're not going to be disappointed. You're going to have a really, really fun few hours. And throughout all these events this week, we've really aimed to sort of stimulate that conversation and that debate around sort of technology that's really shaping our future and shaping our future for the better, particularly through these challenging times. And London Tech Week Connects is really a warm-up, if you like, for the bigger annual festival that we're going to be hosting in September. So we'll be continuing the dialogue, the debate over the coming months, and I really hope you can rejoin us for the big events in September. So I'd just like to thank our sponsors for today and for London Tech Week. So that's IBM, Intel, Henkel, Intel Capital, Microsoft, M12, Google, Havas and McKinsey. And I'd also like to thank our supporters and our collaborators, so DCMS and the wider government, TechNation, GLA and the Mayor's Office, and all our advisors and our ambassadors who've been really with us on this journey and continue to amplify and scale London Tech Week. I'd now like to introduce our MC for this session. So he's a serial entrepreneur. He's the co-founder of many things, of COSPA, of Tenor, of Startup Britain, of a new fantastic initiative called the TOS, which is turn on the subtitles. He's also been providing a real steady stream of creativity and real positive thought in a very purposeful way during the lockdown. It's something that I've really appreciated over the last 12 weeks. And he's also been continuing to convene and curate people in a very authentic and purposeful way. So that leaves me great pleasure to introduce your MC for this session, the wonderful, the brilliant Ollie Barrett.
Thank you, Janet. What a lovely introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Ollie, and it's an honor to be your MC for this afternoon's session, LTW Connects. Please do use that hashtag if you have a moment, hashtag LTW Connects. And wherever you're joining us from, be that in the UK or a bit further afield, you're very, very welcome. Janet Coyle there from London and Partners, also one of the originators of the Mayor's International Business Programme, one of the best in class programs I've seen helping businesses all across the capital go global. A few thoughts about today. We're talking about leadership and about resilience, and I've got questions for you and some brilliant people to introduce you to. By the way, this is a day in which the outgoing leader of the CBI says that the resilience of British business right now is absolutely on the floor. Well, we'll see about that, Dame Carolyn. What do our guests today think? Perhaps tech is a slightly different scenario. We'll see. The good news is we've got some brilliant organisations lined up to talk us through it. Of course, London and Partners, but also Condé Nast, home to Wired and Tatler and Vogue and so many other titles. Besides, their chief exec, Roger Lynch, is going to join us for a fireside chat. We've got global household name tech giants. We've got IBM. We've got Intel. We've also got these scale-ups in the house as well, Fluidly, Upskill Digital, and lots more besides, including the brilliant Founders Intelligence, weaving us through a conversation around pivoting in the face of disruption. Maybe that's something you've had to do sitting wherever you are today. Speaking of which, love to hear your questions as we go through. So you've got a box in your lower screen, which you shall hopefully see to ask some of our guests questions as well. We would like to get you involved, and I've got a couple of questions of my own, if that's all right, on this theme of resilience. Our first question, one I'd like to pose personally to you. When we think about resilience, the ability to withstand or recover quickly from difficult situations, turn your mind back to before the lockdown. How resilient would you say your organisation was on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 was frankly not very and 5 was incredibly? We'll poll you on that now. You'll hopefully see some stars coming up. to select your choice. How resilient was your organization before the lockdown on a scale of 1 to 5? If you vote on that now. Of course, I secretly want to know what it is now. Maybe I'll ask that question too. So you can ask questions as we go along of any of our guests on the panel, and of course, Roger running Condé Nast as we go through. So why don't we have a little glimpse at those results now? We'll just get those up on the screen. So the average there is 4 out of 5. Very punchy going into lockdown, but of course, you can guess where I'm going with that. How resilient would you say your organization is now? Have you descended in Carolyn Fairbairn's estimation? Are you less resilient, or maybe you're feeling even punchier? Vote now on how resilient you are coming out of lockdown as an organization, where 1 is low and 5 is very high. We'll see the result in a minute. Just a quick guided tour of the platform. You'll see the event agenda. What we need you to do as you go through the sessions is just click on the next session as you go down it, and then you can join and see the live feed. If you scan the calendar, you can also pick off sessions and add them to your schedule, and that means you'll be able to see where you're going and join sessions direct from your calendar as well. So the idea is, and by the way, let's have a look of the results of that second poll just coming through to me now. Hopefully we'll show you those on the screen. That second poll, poll 2 is 3. Poll 2, 3.8 on average. So we have lost some resilience, according to you, our guests here at LTW Connect. So we went from a 4 to a 3. Okay, well, we'll see from the, I guess, the front row view of some of our guests about exactly what's been happening and how they've been coping on that. The other thing I just want to mention very quickly in the breaks is that we've got some networking for you, some not any networking, is it? It's London Tech Week after all, some AI-powered networking. So you can see some recommended matches, you can see people that you've already been matched to and you've already declared that you might like to get to know them a bit better. It's like a tech Tinder, isn't it? For goodness sake, whatever next. Actually, we're very grateful to Grip, some very clever technology that's been matching you behind the scenes already. So just a quick reminder, at the end of the session, you'll go through, select the next session. It won't automatically warp you into that next session. You will need to do that. So 2 results, very much food for thought. Lots more to come on that besides. It's a great honor to welcome to address us in this session on the resilience of tech leadership, none other than the Secretary of State for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport. And so I say a very warm welcome on behalf of us all to the Right Honourable Oliver Dowden, MP, CBE.
Well,
welcome.
Thank you, Ollie. Thank you for those words of welcome, and fascinating to hear you talk about tech Tinder for networking. Look forward to hearing the results of that. And I'm really glad to be here virtually to open what's normally opening the stage, but opening the stream here for this special virtual Tech Week. And I know, as you said, that the main event has been postponed till September, but nonetheless, it's great to have the opportunity to talk to you about some of the huge issues that have been raised by this COVID crisis. First of all, to thank you and all of the industry for its resilience and adaptability during what has been, as we know, an unprecedented crisis across the entire globe. And I'd also like to talk about the long-term effect that no doubt the pandemic will have on the entire tech industry. Now, I know that many of you will have heard from the Prime Minister already, who's made it clear when he opened this virtual Tech Week how unashamedly pro-tech this government is going to be. That's something that I've talked about right since the very beginning of being appointed as Secretary of State in February of this year. And the good news is, and I think that's reflected in your survey just before this, that we're starting from a position of real strength. We're a third now globally behind the US and China. You know that, consistently outperforming the rest of Europe. And I was able to share some new figures yesterday that showed that our tech sector has raised £5.3 billion from January to May this year. So that's with London raising more than Paris, Stockholm, Berlin, and Tel Aviv combined. And our mission really is to keep things that way and continue to grow. And given that this is the leadership stream, I want to talk about a few of the things that the government is leading on in relation to tech. And I think that leadership starts first and foremost with our commitment to put a world-class 21st century digital infrastructure in place across the whole of the United Kingdom. And then we're now living in this world that is full of the kind of tech that used to be the stuff of science fiction when we were kids. And while we might not be responsible for inventing the latest app or platform, what we can do here in government, which is where we really lead, is to put infrastructure in place, the infrastructure in place that allows you to do that tech leadership, that allows tech to function. And we've seen this clearly over the past years and months. Without a reliable 4G network, do you remember when the 4G network was first launched? People say, well, what's the point of having a 4G network? We can do just fine with 3G. Well, we wouldn't have been able to have Uber or the sort of delivery services that we've relied on during this lockdown without 4G. And without the super fast broadband that previous governments have invested in, it wouldn't have been able for us to have this conversation. This conversation would not have been possible. All those endless Zoom and other meetings that I know everyone has been doing, that has been enabled by that investment. But that has kept businesses going. It's kept families in touch. It's been absolutely essential. So now as we look forward, we need to think to ourselves, what is the next investment that needs to go in place? How do we enable the technologies that people haven't even thought about now? And at the core of that, I think, are two things. First of all, and I know this from many people, there's still parts of the population, still 4% of the population that don't have super fast broadband. So you're not basically able to do this kind of thing. That is completely unacceptable in this age of massive reliance on tech. So first priority is to get everyone access to super fast. But then going on from that, if the super fast is kind of the filling in the potholes on the road to your house, we need to be building the motorways of the future. And the motorway of the future is, of course, gigabit broadband. And that's where the government's £5 billion commitment comes in. That's gigabit broadband and 5G, an investment to get all across the whole of the United Kingdom to ensure that we have that highest level of infrastructure in place in broadband to enable that next level of adaptation. But the other thing that COVID has raised are questions that will require government leadership over the coming years. It's now crystal clear that the pandemic has put a rocket under the number of tech trends. I mean, I could just pick a few of them. The surge in daily Zoom users, that's gone from 10 million in December to 300 million in March. The UK's peak hour for internet use is now noon to 9 p.m, no doubt reflecting how we're now working online. And this is the most extraordinary one. Just 1% of the 340 million annual visits to NHS GPs were by video prior to the crisis. Now that's around 93%. Within normal times have taken a decade to get that kind of uplift, and that has happened in just a month or two. And anyone and everyone, from local high street shops to your local window cleaner, is looking to see how they can expand and get their businesses online, expand their customer base. And already we've seen that the turnover for small and medium-sized businesses has risen, for example, by a third on eBay during lockdown. And I really think that is just the beginning of long-term trends. And digital now is clearly the default and not the afterthought. And this new super digital age raises a number of questions for government. As people become more and more dependent on tech, how do we make sure that everyone has access to it so that no one is left behind? And how can we get more small businesses and medium-sized businesses offering their services online so that we can expand the radius of their customer base? If you think about it, if you've got a physical shop, you've probably only got about a 5-mile radius for a small business. But once you're fully enabled to operate online, there's this imperative to do so. You can provide services nationally or indeed internationally. So that's what we're focusing on. How do we provide the support for that to happen? And finally, how can we bring greater coherence to the current regulatory and data regime so that our tech industry can really fly? And I've really been struck, for example, during this crisis, how we have seen data come to the fore. We've seen the different attitude of the Information Commissioner. People are realizing the positive power of data and how we can use that to not just improve public policy. It's been vital, for example, in our response to the public health crisis, but also how we can use it to drive economic growth, try and rebalance data from seeing it sometimes as a threat that needs to be protected against to an opportunity that we can embrace. So all of these questions have created a burning platform for change. And I and the people in my department are thinking very carefully about what steps we take next so that we can make the most of this momentum, so we can build on it and put tech at the very heart of this country's recovery from the coronavirus. And already this week, we've taken a big step forward. So we've launched a new international tech strategy, which includes a range of measures to keep us at the top of the international tech table. So, for example, that includes the launch of a digital trade network for Asia Pacific, which the Prime Minister has already talked about. It also includes a new tech exporting academy to provide expert advice to some of the most innovative small and medium-sized businesses so they can increase their exports to international markets. And that includes advice on things such as tax, law, intellectual property, the kind of obscure and sometimes labyrinthine technicalities that put some of our best businesses off expanding online. And it also includes a new tech network stretching across the whole of the United Kingdom. And we're also doing everything that we can to strengthen our cybersecurity against cyber attacks and scams, particularly in the light of COVID, when we've seen criminals try to exploit the pandemic through scam sites offering face masks, testing kits. And as part of that effort today, I can announce that we are investing £10 million in 9 new research projects that aim to make us more resilient and secure against exactly those kind of threats. And if you want to see more details of those are all available now on gov.uk. So do take a look and find out more. So I've touched on a number of challenges and themes here. But one thing is clear, tech has been a lifeline in this global crisis. And the strength of the UK's tech sector will fire the engines of our recovery that we so desperately need. And I'm determined to ensure that the government plays its part in enabling this. The tech lash is over and the digital-led renewal has begun. Now, that doesn't mean not challenging technological tech companies for their responsibilities, far from it. But what it does mean is embracing the transformative role that tech is playing in our economy, our lives, and our society at this time of unprecedented change. And I really do genuinely look forward to picking up on all of those themes in much more detail, hopefully in person in September, when I hope we'll be able to meet together. But until then, have a great London Tech Week and enjoy the rest of this programme. Thank you, and back over to you, Ollie.
Thank you so much, Secretary of State for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport, Oliver Dowden. Tech at the heart of the recovery, he says. And indeed, the tech lash is over. I was about to make a little joke there as I was unmuting my mic, saying what we were really hoping is that the Secretary of State would mute his mic as he moved away from the screen. Of course, yesterday, and he has, I've seen it, yesterday, the Secretary of State for Health not quite doing that, revealing perhaps more than he wished to about his own health. There's a minister who really knows his bunions, and thanks to Zoom, now so do we. I hope you're enjoying the session so far. We've got lots still to come. Can I just draw your attention to later in the afternoon, 4:30 this afternoon, my friend and colleague, the founder of the Tech London Advocates, Russ Shaw, is going to be leading our next session right at 4:30, still on this theme of resilience in tech, but embracing startups and scale up. So that's a little plug for much later this afternoon. What's coming up next on this stage? Well, 2 things. Some brilliant content at 3:05. That is a fireside chat with Roger Lynch, the CEO of Condé Nast, that huge global content provider, home to so many household name magazines and so on and so forth, in conversation with Laura Citron, the chief exec of London and Partners. So that is coming up in just under 10 minutes at 3:05. Now there's a chance for you to have a conversation with each other, to find each other, to use our networking magic through our AI-powered connection motor. So have a look, see who's there, see who you've matched with already, and we'll see you back right here. Click down the next link on the agenda for our next fireside chat with Roger Lynch, Chief Exec of Condé Nast at 3:05. See you then.